broadcasting, and I was the broadcaster of the race results that went up and right over Queensland, and they had to hook up to listen to me to get their dividends, to make sure the dividends were right so they could pay out, you see. And before I'd go on air, they used to have this little, every quarter of an hour, they'd go, and as a fanfare, they'd play this bugle thing, like they have on the racetrack. And there was a woman said to my sister, she said, do you know that I've known your brother all his life and I never knew he could play the bugle? She thought I sat in there every quarter of an hour and played the trumpet. That's right. She said, I didn't even know he could play the trumpet. I've known him all these years. I said, no, he doesn't actually play.
Well, how did they play that then?
It's time to run the Barracuda! Yeah! Everybody do it now! Do what, baby? Come on and do the Barracuda!
G'day viewers, today's podcast was brought to you by Koala Karma, the chill out drink. Sit back, relax, crack a can of good old Karma Koala. Anyway, how are you? On today's show, I bring you Leo Beutel, a boxing Hall of Famer. The man has announced more fights than anyone, I'm sure, in this country. He's got a huge... anyway, I'm not going to ruin it and say it now. The story lies within this podcast. It was an honour to meet him recently at Fight Like a Pro, and I'm blown away right now that he's hearing the things he's heard, as no doubt I've grown up hearing his voice through 4BC and everything. So I'm a little rattled by it. I'm just, again, very happy I got this good man on tape. Thank you, Leo. And here it is. Are you there? Episode 127. Are you there, Leo? Yeah! And test.
1, 2, yep. 1, 2, yep. 1.
Leo Beutel. Put it there, champion. How are you, mate?
Well, thanks, mate. It's a great pleasure to be here, Drew.
Amazing to see you here.
Yeah, wonderful. What a great spot.
Amazing to see you here, mate. Now, thanks for coming on down to Burleigh today. Where are you living right now?
I'm living up at the other end of the Gold Coast at Bigger Waters and loving it up there.
Yeah.
The Gold Coast to me is just home away from home.
Yeah. Are you always from the Gold Coast?
No, I was born in Brisbane. One of the few people who in Toowoomba moved to Brisbane when I went to school, and actually been one of the Queenslanders. One of the rare breed. People come from Melbourne and say, where were you from before you moved to Queensland? So people were actually born in Queensland, you know?
That's right. Yeah. Well, me too. I was born out in Brisbane there.
Sure.
Went to Rochedale High School, so Rochedale, that area there. So we're in Toowoomba, can I ask?
Well, we virtually had a farm outside, Drew, in a little place called Ravensbourne. There's a national park at Ravensbourne, and about 40 k's out of Toowoomba.
Right.
Yeah,
is that
spot.
on the way to Oakey?
Yeah, in behind Esk. You virtually go up the range. From
Wow.
Esk, yeah.
I stayed in Esk not long ago. No, when I say not long ago, 15 years ago.
Mate, it's a great little town.
There was, elk, deer. Everywhere.
Many deer up there, yeah. They virtually in the rutting season, as they say. I
can't believe
There's
it.
deer everywhere. It's a bit of a, I don't know if they hunt them very much, but there's certainly plenty there.
There's plenty. And the noise, like I remember staying in someone's house thinking, yep, I'm out in the country, and next minute they're screaming like, whoa! I can't even recall it. Yeah.
As they do, yep.
That's where are they? There's none about here. I guess they were imported here a long time ago.
Well, they virtually live up in high mountains, and there's a sort of a range outside of Esk, and that's where they are, up in the pretty rugged sort of country. But you see them, they come down, almost down into the town at some stage. And Esk is a great little town, and we go up every year and have a family reunion at Ravensbourne. Yeah. And people come from Toowoomba and all over the world, and it's a Beutel family reunion. And so we stay for the weekend in Esk, which is a great little town.
Beautiful. Is it a big family?
Yeah, well, everyone says that's an unusual name, Beutel, but everyone knows 300 of them. They come out from Germany about 100 years ago.
Wow.
And virtually headed for those little country towns and so forth, and become farmers, and and so it's a and there's still a lot of them there, and we have a family reunion. I think the biggest we had there was 800 people. The local paper put it in the paper that was going to be there, and some flew from America and England and so forth. So it's great, but we used to get about an average of 100 people up at the park, and all tell lies and how good we were. The saying true, the older we get, the better we were.
Exactly, yeah. Now, it's a funny place out there, Toowoomba. It's so... No, it's so different to, I think, the Gold Coast. Because like you, I went to somewhere, I wish I could think of it right now, on the way to Toowoomba. So it's pretty much Lockyer Valley.
Yeah, Gatton, those little towns.
And there was this, we stayed there for a sales conference this time.
Uh-huh.
And the next morning there was a market on. And I'm thinking like you would on the Gold Coast, it's all touristy market sort of stuff. They pretty much sell the same junk, yeah?
Yep.
But this had military, there was lots of ancient military weapons on display.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Scottish Highland dancing. There's loads of that. Like you don't see that at all here
No.
anymore. I remember growing up seeing Scottish dancing every other week at someone's family, you know?
Sure. Well, there's a big forces base not far out of it, Oakey, just out of Toowoomba, but I think that's more on the Air Force side more than the Army, you know. Yeah.
But I like the idea that old traditions kind of stay
Exactly.
in the country.
Oh,
like,
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
so your German family, my name's German.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
much about that tradition, but
No.
I like that idea that just out there,
Yeah.
not far away even, they're holding on to traditions because, you know, granddad potentially lived in the same house or because they're
Sure.
looking after properties and...
There's a story about that, you know, out at the old military sale, and the guy walked in and he said, do you sell camouflage suits? And he said, yes. He said, going to buy one? And he said, no. And he said, why not? And he said, I can't find them. But they really worked, didn't they? They were good camouflage suits.
Yeah, good. So what brings you, look, I know you, I guess for people listening, I know you from Fight Like a Pro.
Yep, sure.
And I first met you, or I didn't even meet you when I saw you, what do you call it? Announcing the show.
Yeah, sure.
Announcing a fight.
Yeah.
And here I was watching a man in a suit and tie, black, you know, the real thing. There's something about when you go to a boxing event, and my wife saw it only for the first time recently.
Sure.
So she's from Japan, and so
Oh, sure,
she
I
was
bet her,
expecting
yeah.
just another thing, and it's like punching and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't know what to expect, but what she was surprised when I was there. There's a certain thing about boxing events where it's all about you know, lads like yourself, the announcing and the
hype.
crew dressed in a certain way.
Yeah. Well, that's the way boxing has been, you know, and ever since. I think it's sort of a format that the guys involved, you know, the officials and so forth, the announcers particularly, you know, and they become a big part of the boxing night. You know, if you watch the Buffetts and so forth from America and Let's Get Ready to Rumble and those sort of guys, and we've had some in Australia that really do just add that little something to the actual boxing itself. Yeah,
It's
and,
like
I'm proud to be part of it. Yeah,
yeah, it's great. It's like bringing some class to. Everyone knows, like everyone knows there's some battles happening here.
Yeah.
But as men, there's an inbuilt feeling of bringing some class to it.
Yeah,
You know?
I think that's it, and that's why, you know, I go to a lot and, you know, and when I'm not working, I look and it just sort of loses something if a guy gets up in a check shirt and a pair of strides and says, you know, in the blue corner, I'm Jack Jones, and then there's more to it than that, and I think that, you know, that bit of hype just really does add something, and I just hope that I, you know, bring that to the people that probably, see, Drew, there's a lot of people that go to those nights that virtually have no interest in boxing. They're there to watch their friends, who may be an accountant or a solicitor, a businessman, and they're not the actual fight fans. But I think if you can give that little bit of hype and just show them what actual boxing things can be, that they walk out of there pretty happy with what they've seen, you know. And that's all part of the deal, the lighting and the noise, and we try to give them exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I even took my wife took her on Sunday. There was the Queensland Masters.
Sure, down at Tweed
boxing
or somewhere,
at Kira Sports Club.
Yeah, well,
and again, she didn't really want to go. She was
No.
thinking, "What's this?" You know. And again,
Sure.
but it was she loved it. They didn't want to leave. Like
I know, yeah. And
you know,
that's, a part of that is the hype and so forth, because they didn't probably have your wife from Japan probably hasn't got a great deal of interest in guys boxing, but just the hype of it virtually becomes an exciting event. And I would have been there myself at that, but I'm the president of the boxing association in Queensland and also the Hall of Fame, and I had a function. We inducted 5 more fighters and a couple of other people into the Hall of Fame on Sunday. Otherwise I'd been with that myself.
Truly.
Yeah.
How does that event sort of...
Well, we do it every year, Drew, and we induct two people that are involved in boxing, maybe not fighters, but great trainers, second cornermen and so forth, and people who are involved in the sport without having to be a participant. We virtually induct them in as associates, and then we have 3 boxers because of their record and because of what they've done. They are then inducted in as boxers. And then we pick out someone else that virtually, and we've only done it 5 times in the last 30 years, and I was proud to induct one of the bowlers from our bowls club who virtually had a stroke 10 years ago, spent 6 months in hospital and virtually the first month in a coma, and he shows this incredible heart and spirit. And virtually we inducted him as a life member of our association because of his courage and what to overcome his, this handicap. It takes him about 5 minutes to walk from one end of the bowling green to the other. Wow. And he virtually had to learn to do it left-handed because he was right-handed, and that's all paralysed in his right side. He got a metal stick that he virtually holds a bowl in and lets it go. And anyone who complains about their handicaps and so forth, or their problems, I say go and have a talk to that guy.
Yeah.
And
what's his name?
His name is Graham Coxell. Yeah, and wow. He got the award and spent most of the day in tears, just saying that no one's ever done anything for me before. And it was and we've only done it 5 times in 30 years. Once was to Paul Pasali, the Lord Mayor of Ipswich, for his great fight in saving his city against the floods. Another was Johnny Famishon. He's already in the Hall of Fame for his boxing ability, but we virtually inducted him as a life member because of his great fight against this, his illness and his injuries when he was run over by a car. Another was Alex Leopai, who was the first to box, for the heavyweight championship of the world against Klitschko. And a little old lady who was 87 and fought off an attacker in a wheelchair. Wow. And said I would have given him a really big hiding if I could have got out of the wheelchair. But so they're the type of people, and this guy was the 5th ever in 30 years to be inducted because that's what we thought of his courage. Yeah. Right.
And where's the association based?
The Hall of Fame is up at the club up in Yatala, and it's called the Showman's Guild. And they virtually devoted a big part of it for our Hall of Fame. We've got all the wonderful records and so forth. And so we're very proud of ours. And we virtually pack it out every year when we do a Hall of Fame. We hold another function in February, just a reunion, and they fly from Melbourne, Sydney, all over Australia. And Drew, I'd just like to say that these people, we've been doing it now for 32 years, twice a year, and there's 100 to 150 people come from all over Australia, all had lots of boxing experience, and in that twice a year, but they all have plenty of have quite a few drinks, but we haven't had one argument in all those time and all those people. Yeah. And someone said, my wife said, we've never seen an argument, and someone said, who would you want to fight? Yeah. And another old guy said, we've been paid for 300 fights through our life. Why would you want to get to 70 years of age and fight someone for nothing? Yeah. So it's a great attitude, and I'm just proud that these old boxers turn up with noses broken 100 times and virtually are just all good friends. Right. And relive the fights they had. And that's one of the sayings we have up there, the older we get, the better we were. Yeah. But it's a wonderful experience.
Well, isn't it that, actually, I want to jump back to a question that's in my mind, so I can't forget it. But before I say that, all boxers know, or anyone who's done any sort of thing in the ring or whatever, they know consequences, and they know that it's, any fight on the street is just going to be a ridiculous situation.
Exactly.
And no one's going to win. Not a person's going to win.
Do you know that of all the boxers I know, I don't think many of them had more than 1 or 2 fights in the street, As the bloke said, why would I fight someone for nothing? You get paid to do it. And virtually,
And the potential of knowing, I could kill that person. You could.
And truly, really some of the people don't realise just how close to harm they are when they start to pick on some, guy who is back to the old saying, don't pick on anyone. And a little story, and I'll tell you, Drew, I think it was great. A friend of mine, Barry Michael, who fought for the world title, as you know, and beat Lester Ellis in one of the great fights ever, was living on the Gold Coast for a while and was staying at my place, and drove up to Brisbane on business. And during the rain and so forth, he was driving back and someone thought he'd done something wrong, and whether he had or not, I don't know. But Barry sort of apologised in the window and said, sorry, and this bloke's pulling up beside him saying, get off the road and I'll bash you. So Barry Michaels, who had just recently won the World lightweight championship of the world, pulled up and said, well, I've had enough of this. So Barry's got out, and as the bloke's rushing to put on a blue, he has put his hands up and said, do you want to carry on with this or don't you? The guy realised who it was, stuck his hands up in the air and said, sorry, Barry. And instead of having a fight, he gave him an autograph and they all went on their way home. But you can imagine the guy getting home and saying, I just about made a bit of a mistake. I picked on a fight.